Good evening. I'm Enari Darklor and welcome to Churikua. Tonight, in our second compilation of legends, we will listen to patasola, one leg, Maria beheaded, card of death, and el silbón or the whistler. I also remind you that after each legend you will listen a little musical intermission. So enjoy it. Our first episode of the year, we will listen to the legend of La Patasola, one leg, from Antioquia, Colombia. I'm from Cali, but at the bank where I work, I was offered a promotion, whereas I accepted to move to Antioquia. My husband would have to quit his job and look for something else to work in, but he accepted at the time to see how important it was for me. There were too many responsibilities. I had to work overtime, and he didn't understand that. So he started to be possessive and jealous from basically nothing. Then he used to cry out, "Sure, you have an affair with someone else at the office. I'm tired of you and your excuses about you are just working. Tell me the truth. You don't have any respect for your husband." I feel bad because I enjoy my work, solving everything carefully, but I was just a victim of my husband's jealousy and tortured by his possessing ideas. I started to sleep in the living room, so he started to drink a lot and go to the parties every possible time. I reached a point I couldn't deal with this anymore. We argued and he hit me, even thought he treated me, telling me that if I wasn't able to be his wife, I wouldn't be for no one else. He gagged me, carried me to the goods close to where we live, and hit me with a hammer on the head. I woke up in the hospital. After recovering from the attack, I was told that they were at my home, the police, to inform me that my husband was in a delicate condition due to the fact he had an accident. Some neighbors found me when they were looking for their dog and realized the police was in a nearby street and asked for help. I heard that he was in the goods. He fell into a ditch. His screams were listened, and once he was found in the road to the hospital, he just babbled. "A woman turned into a demon jumping in a leg. The one who attacked me." He repeated this until he lost consciousness once inside the ambulance. When I recovered consciousness and listened about this, I asked the nurse who was attending me, and she told me this reminds her of a local legend, the patasola, one leg. She was a very beautiful woman. She got married and with a landlord she had 3 children. But at the time she felt lonely, a cowboy started flirting with her and started an affair with him, without his husband's knowledge. Her husband told her he had to go to solve some important issues, but he actually spied on her. Once he was sure he was being cheated, and once they were hugging, he went fast and from a slash with a machete ended with him. And from a slash on the hip left her without a leg. The man went to jail, but was released a little time later, being able to keep with the children and burning the house. Since then, she surrounds rapines, pats, and goods, flirting and drawing men's attention until leaving her beauty behind and her ugliness appear with her deep fire-burning eyes and her cat-like sharp fangs used to drink their blood. My husband had just passed away before I recovered consciousness, until I knew he was the victim of an animal attack by biting him and the blood loss caused by it. Later on, I was told by the police that guns were found in his car. I like thinking that the patasola was the one who attacked him that night. I thank her for releasing me from that destiny afforded by my husband's desire and similar to hers. Here I am, close to leave this world behind. I arrived to Porto Alegre in 1895, and in 1897 I became a soldier. I wanted to be seen as an important person, serving my country and fighting not just for my career, so did my family. Who would believe I had been witness of what would be happening? From the tragedy that had made a mark into everybody's memories for decades and maybe centuries? When I arrived to the army, it wasn't unexpected that to get used to the soldier's life demands, yet make friends inside the brigade. Although, due to the fact of being a quiet person, it was one of the best soldiers and brigade mate, Bruno Suarez Picudo. For me, who had just started, was a good example. He advised me on technical details, combat tactics, guns, weapons, and barely about common issues not related in any aspect to our life of duty. One night, he arrived telling us that he had a girlfriend, a beautiful young lady from Germany, whose name was Maria Francelina Trenes. At the beginning, she barely speaks Portuguese, but it wasn't an obstacle to accept being his girlfriend. On the first weeks, he was full of joy, happy, but little by little, he was made tense, being tired, such as something was worrying him. Other boys and me asked him, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, yeah," even though his face was telling us the opposite to his answers. "I had some disagreement with Maria, that's all." When we asked him about what happened, he just said that everything was fine and he preferred not to talk nor to think more about it. I was lucky to find a beautiful woman to whom, after winning her heart, accepted to be my girlfriend. And I became the last one from the 1st Cavalry Brigade on being on a relationship. So, Then we organized a picnic with our girlfriends. Whereas it sounds a little strange, the place we decided to organize our event was in Mogo dos Picios. We arrived, and after talking a little, we agreed to do fire to heat the meal. Bruno and other made stoves to install, where to cook and heat the meal. Maria and other friends were to look for firewood. We ate and enjoyed the day. Once we finished eating, and while the girls started to tidy up and keep everything, another friend and I were in charge of keeping all the heavy stuff. When I realized something happened, and Bruno walked furiously toward Maria. He dragged her from the arm and went walking behind a fig tree where we had left some stuff we had used for our picnic. We just saw how they became angry and started to argue. We didn't understand what they were arguing about due to the distance. Then Maria took an iron tube and hit him with it. Bruno did his best to dodge the hit. Then he took the tube and threw it out of Maria's range. A friend and I started to run to stop them. Maria ran around the fig tree. She took a firewood, and suddenly everything was over for us because when we arrived, it was too late. Bruno beheaded Maria with a knife and in just one slash. We did everything possible to disarm him, but his anger was so enormous that we barely were hurtless. Another friend's girlfriend and mine went to look for the police. After that horrific scene, looking at how Maria's eyes saw through the nun and how she was lying on the fig tree, we didn't understand how this happened. After this, Bruno was taken to court and was found guilty. I barely saw him just once in jail. He told me he was repentant of what he had done. He got ill and died in prison. In his last days, according to other prisoners, he was thoughtful and sighing, sometimes like praying and whispering the name of Maria. People in town buried her in the same place she died and built her a little chapel, Nossa Senhora da Conceição. At the beginning, they pray for her everlasting rest, and one day a person prayed asking for help, and so she helped. The word was spread, and lots of people were going, asking her for help, and their requests were listened and granted. A soldier from our same brigade found a former love and wished so much to be with her. So, in his desire, went to the chapel and asked Maria for help to be with his love. 3 days later, and when he was on his patrol, he was attacked by a prisoner who escaped. In little time, I'm joining those who got what they wanted. I ask Maria to cure me from this illness which is afflicting me. There is no doubt that Maria doesn't intercede benevolently in police officers nor soldiers. She is dedicated to her new labor now and forever. Since I was very little, my family and I moved to Madrid. Every time we went on vacations, we traveled to a little town in Asturias. It is a little town where everybody is united and knows each other. I always had someone to play with, but I remember my grandma insisting on going to bed early and to not to go out at night for any reason. Once I had graduated from high school, I didn't decide what to study, so my parents didn't beat about the bush and told me, look for a job. I worked in a snack bar, but the owner was so exigent that after 2 months I decided to go.
Uh-oh.
My parents had already understood the situation, so asked me to look for another job. So at the time of not finding anything, I decided to give up and took my little savings I had and went with my grandma to the town. Once there, the first month I focused on helping grandma with the chores at home. Then, a store was looking for a temporary employee. Mela, the employee in charge of the store, was pregnant, and someone to be in charge of the store was being looked for until she had her baby. It didn't take me long to learn and not to commit mistakes, so Mela left and I started to be in charge of the place. Something that caught my attention was that all the stores and businesses were closed early, before sunset. Once at night, all of us were at home. I thought it was just strange ideas from little towns, but one day I asked my grandma, why isn't anyone on the street at night? It's because a card with guestia inside at night. No one should see it. If you do it, you can die. At the beginning, I thought it was just awful, and I just said that I understood. About a month later, as soon as Grandma fell asleep, I used to look at the sky without clouds, full of stars, until one night I saw something I thought was an owl. I saw a cart from those pulled by horses, by horses, but there wasn't anything pulling it. The cart was going around Doña Yalga's home, a grandma's friend who lives a few houses away from hers. I lost it. Then it appeared once again and vanished. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought I was dreaming. I went to bed. Next day and after work, when I arrived home, Grandma wasn't there. Later on, she arrived and said her friend Doña Yalgas was seriously ill. She had been ill for a while. Suddenly, what I saw the night before came to my mind. So I decided to tell her what I saw. My grandma surprised. My grandma surprised said, "What you saw was the card of death. It visited people who are seriously ill. After the third visit, they die. Inside the car is guestia. It is in charge of carrying the dead soul in their procession." After a while, she told me not to lean out because if they saw you, you could become a victim. Even thought I promised not to lean out. The curiosity was bigger inside me, so I did it again, this time with a translucent curtain in order to hide a little my presence from it. At the same hour, I saw the cart visiting and going around the house. This time, I saw how the cart appeared. From it, some people wearing white shrouds with candles in their hands surrounded the place. The amazing thing was the quantity of people who were getting off from it. In that little tour, I hid myself behind the curtain and looked out of the corners of my eye how after the little procession all the souls got into the cart, started running without any noise, and disappeared. After disobeying my grandma, I didn't tell her what I saw. So I asked Don Anton, the owner from the store, and I told him I listened to some people while I was coming work talking about a cart and how it visited Doña Yalga's home. He told me the same than Grandma, but after asking who was inside, he answered, "Guestia is the amount of souls of those who left this world with something pending or suffering." They wear shrouds, burning candles in their hands, and they go praying and singing funeral songs. Then they took the dead soul with them inside a coffin. The cart appeared to carry with it the souls of those who are seriously ill and close to die. During the rest of the day, I stayed thinking about it. Everything seems to fit in the puzzle, and that was the last night for Doña Yelga. So I decided to do anything possible to look at it. Without saying a word to Grandma, and such as the night before, I saw her pass, such as I did, and such as it did last time. But now Westia got off with a coffin. Four of them came into the house with a coffin on their backs. They took some minutes and then they came out with the coffin open. There was Doña Yalga, pale and kind of translucid because it was her soul, I guess. They surrounded the place in their procession with the coffin on their backs, burning candles, and even thought I saw burning bones, and I could barely hear that they were praying a rosary. Little time later, they came back and get into the cart, closed the coffin, and put it above. Then the cart disappeared. Next morning, it was the Mass and Doña Yalga's funeral. Once Mela came back to work, I decided to return to Madrid. Now I'm finishing college. Nevertheless, I remembered what I had seen those nights, and they are still inside my mind. And I wondered inside myself if, when the time to let this world behind arrives, and taking into account that we live in Madrid, would they come for our souls too? I never consider myself a person who believe in paranormal issues. I just believe in those things I can see or prove. At least until the day I found something I used to believe didn't exist. This happened when I owned a car, but a month later I had not planned expenses, so I didn't have any other choice except moving to a cheaper place. I found a very comfortable apartment. It was smaller than my previous apartment. One night, when I excited from work, was due to arrive home I heard a whistle. I felt afraid, but I thought it was a worker who was coming back home. On my free day, I went to a party with my friends. A friend who lived far away asked me to stay the night at my place. I didn't see it as a bad idea. Then we listened to a whistle, such as calling someone. Suddenly, my friend said, "Would it be the whistler?" The whistler? Yeah. Then you realize that is here very close? That's true. So what? Is he far away? Isn't he? Yeah, he is. The whistler was a guy who is suffering from killing his father. He carries him in a bag, which always carries with. He couldn't be idle while his father was abusing his wife. He hit him and killed him. Once, his grandpa realized about it, sending him to be hit with a whip, spreading chili on his goods, and making him run for his life. Then, dogs started chasing him, and then he was never seen alive again. Somehow, hearing that noise made me feel scared. It was obvious that it was not just horror mythos. At least, that was what Rodrigo, my friend, was saying. We continued on the road, but suddenly, in a little crossroad, we saw how a very tall and deeply skinny man with a bag on his back was walking. We listened to his whistle, but it sounded almost unhearable. He looked at us and turned into the direction we were in. I started to drive very fast, so I told Rodrigo to take my keys and be ready to open the door and enter as fast as we could to my place. And we did it that way. As soon as he opened the door, we came running, closing the door and pushing the sofa, and we set it in order to block the door. We ran to my bedroom and we pushed the bed to block the door. We still hear the whistle, but very far away, almost as a whisper. We, we cover ourselves with a blanket and with a stick and some kitchen knives as guns. Then, tiredness and sleep could more than us. Sleep was more powerful than our fear, and at a certain point we fell asleep, and when we woke up, we were happy not to be injured. We saw scratches on the door, so certainly we felt lucky to stay alive. No one from our friends believed in horror mythos or paranormal stuff, so we agreed not to tell them about that. Telling we saw just some nocturnal animals and some drunk people passing on those solitary roads. Once I had the chance, I moved on again due to the fact that even arriving early and the whistler was loudly heard surrounding my place, and especially on rainy days.